You're watching Daybreak. Thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Peter Orero is the MP representing Kibra constituency. Beatrice Alachi is the colleague in Parliament and represents Dagoretti North. Silas Obohatsa is the chairperson, the National Parents Association, and we are discussing the fire tragedy at the Hillside Indarasha Academy. And Honorable Elachi, I want us to take a look at this graphical description given to us by one of actually the first student who raised the alarm, and we'll be having that shortly here for the representation. There we go, and that was the main door. You can see that is where the fire incident started, and the first cube is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It had 12 beds, and assuming that that's double decker, so you're talking about 24 students.
24
okay?
students,
Yep,
yes.
that's in that cube.
Yeah.
And then there's the main door. We'll be having the next graphical representation. And then, as per the description given to us, this is the small exit to grade 8 dormitory on the other side. Mm-hmm. And then there is door 3. Considering these are now minors, so this is now the exit doors. That is the main door, and then there is the door 3. And then to the main way, which is a small exit, leads you to grade 7 and grade 6 and grade 7 dormitory. And that is the matron, where we understand from reports that this is subject to establishment of by the investigative agencies where she or he was present. And just generally now to grade 6 and 7. This is where now the commotion started, and the fear of the learners over what transpired, and the fall from the bulb which had caused that, and the fear which gripped the learners, and thereafter leading to the fire which had engulfed the entire dormitory, and given the number of students who are still missing. And this is just but a description of what my colleague managed to get from the first learner who raised the alarm and who he managed to speak with in Darasha, the Hillside Academy. And Honorable Elachi, coming to you, these are safety basic standards that have not been met, given the guidance given by the agencies that are concerned. And how sure are we that all schools and learning centers adhere to these safety protocols, given that we may not have a definitive list of learning institutions that have failed to meet the safety protocols as prescribed by the concerned agencies?
First of all, when I look at the architect of the whole dome, so they have one main door. Mm-hmm. With this main door, it is at the door that you come in and now go to other doors. Mm-hmm. And let me call him the dome master or the house master, is right at the end on the other side.
Yep, yeah.
But then he has to come through this main door and go, or he has a door that enters his room from outside. Because if this young man ran through this corridor to the matron, mm-hmm, on that side, and him coming out and exiting, yeah, and the fire started at door 1, at dome 1, closer to the main door, isn't it?
Yes.
Then they would have saved very many others as they move out. But either stamp it, mm-hmm, or because they are all asleep, yeah, I will not say the young angel, because I'll call him an angel. Yeah. Him being terrified, he has never seen. He just did what wisdom gave him and decided, I need to be out of that dome. Mm-hmm. But now you, the matron who has been called here is where now so many questions come. Do we have, he's alone, these are young, mm-hmm, as I said, like dome grade 8 in their dome here, and their small exit door. Do they exit from that side, or they have to come again back to this main door? You see, those are the questions now many people would be asking. Do we have another, is this door 3 an exit to get out? So that you remain with these two domes that were closer to the main door these 2 cubics, let me call they are cubics,
Yeah.
to remain at the main door so that, and you can't use, because already you realize fire started from this side. So everyone was running either to that side. And maybe because of being small, there's a lot of stampede. So it is who has energy to get out. If you don't have, you can be stampeded and you are gone there. Why? You are not breathing, and somebody has already, you are pushed down. You'll remain there. And so maybe at that exit is where we should be asking the school,
all right, which
is your main exit? You have a main door, yes. Where is your main exit? Since you have a sort of a dome that you have one that is extreme at the end, does it have an exit door? Were these children on this side able to come out? And so what about these ones who are at the lower side, or at the left side of the dome?
All right.
But then this shows you how, first of all, this is a very wrong structure for a dome.
Okay.
It cannot be like this.
Okay.
Because, and you cannot put them together. I don't know whether when we say to grade 6, 7, this is a road, or is the same now building going across, because that's where we go wrong. And that's when, after we have seen many fires in schools, one of the regulations that were given is that you do a dome that has a door, main to exit. And it's a clear corridor. So even if they are cubics, these cubics have doors, yes, and their doors are not closed doors. No. They were left like that with a purpose, that if anything happens, you're able to quickly get in. And the other thing was really recommended, that you cannot use grills at whatsoever.
Or still.
Or still. Whatever you put, you cannot.
Okay.
It was supposed to be a window where, if things are worse, you can remove the window, and people can even use the window to jump out.
Evacuation, all right.
Yes, for evacuation.
Right.
So those are some of the questions. And it's not just for Endarasha. Endarasha has raised a very sad but critical agenda for the country as we start the CBC.
Okay, and we'll talk about that. Okay.
As I just finished,
yes.
Today is Monday, we start morning, and I'm imagining the parents, as Mwalimu Orero said, that counseling, I even said that when we started, that counseling, even the teachers, you see, it's not just parents, but there are a few things also we need to ask ourselves, that if we don't have smoke detectors in schools, then we have no business even having them as boarding schools.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Silas, we'll be getting also an update from Seth Olale shortly here on the broadcast. He's standing by. Then this raises questions, is it, from parents as well, as to what exactly happened with our school rebuilding or refurbishment process, given the structures that should be accommodative and should have safety procedures?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me begin from where Mheshimiwa has just left. I've looked at that dormitory in that school, and we are saying that we are not speaking only about Endarasha. We're just talking about schools in Kenya in general, that are schools safe for our children. It's the learning environment good for our children. And I give you an example. When
you'll just proceed. Allow me to hold you there, and you get the account of my colleague Seth Olale, who is standing by for us. Given the dipping temperatures in Nyeri County, he gives us this assessment first. Good morning to you, Seth. And how many parents are there at the Level 4 hospital where the DNA sequencing is set to start today? And what's the mood like there?
Well, good morning, Ayub. A very somber mood here at the Level 4 Nairobi Hospital, which is just right behind me. We've started seeing some activity. We are still not certain whether they some of the parents or whether they're just patients arriving here. But up to this particular moment, we've also not seen any tent that has been set up by some of the first respondents, that is the Kenya Red Cross and other emergency agencies here at the Nairobi Level 4 Hospital. But what we know is that, as you rightly put it, it is at this particular venue where we expect at least parents of over 30 learners whose children are still missing following that particular unfortunate fire tragedy that happened last Thursday, to assemble here. They have been communicated to, at least from what we gathered from some of these parents who still have their missing persons, the missing learners, and they're going to come here any moment from now. And that particular exercise will involve sampling of the DNA just to try and establish if there could be any positive match from samples also collected at the Hillside and Russia Academy.
As well as the uncertainty around the many questions about the whereabouts of the unaccounted for learners. Yesterday, since the story that you did from the school where the fire tragedy had happened, what were the accounts that you managed to gather from the parents, and how many have you observed are still raising the questions over the painful search for the learners? And is that what the government has substantively responded to, in your view, as of yesterday?
Very minimal information coming to these particular parents, and you could see the anger, the bitterness, the emptiness, and the frustrations from their faces, because the pace at which information is trickling down to them is very unsatisfactory. And we were interacting, like you said, Ayub, yesterday with some of those desperate parents, talking about Simon Kavogo Njogu, who's the 37-year-old father to Kelvin Kafogo Njogu, who is still missing, the grade 7 learner at Hillside and Russia. And he was just one of the parents who, yesterday expressed his frustration, disappointment as well, saying that the only information they've received is from a call from the Kenya Red Cross officials telling him to present himself here this morning at the Nairobi Level 4 Hospital. So talking about information, access to information, updates, there seem to be very little, or if you say it's a very slow process, and this is even raising more anxiety for these many parents who have their missing learners yet to be identified. They want closure to this particular uncertainty, and they hope that this particular exercise today will some sort bring them just closer to the reality that lies ahead.
Seth, thank you and good morning. Many thanks for the assessment from the Nairobi Level 4 Hospital, where that process will be kickstarting this morning. Seth Olale reporting for us from there, and not yet the establishment of the tracing desks that ought to be receiving the parents for the sequencing process that is set to happen today. Seth, good morning. Thank you. And we'll let you go now to embark on the other assignments that await you ahead of the day. Many thanks. Silas, you had a point, please proceed.
Yes, you have heard my friend there talk about access to information. And I even say this, that parents have no access to information. For example, if the parents of that school were allowed to walk in and just walk everywhere in the school because they own that school, at least one or two parents would have seen that maybe in future there could be a disaster that might take place, and those corrections will have been done. I come back to my point. We are not talking about the Russia school. We are talking about schools in Kenya. Are they safe or not safe? One, I want to say this as the chairman of Parents Association, that parents ought to be given all the freedom to visit schools and assess the safety of their children. And this can only be done when parents have been trained on this. Parents must be trained to understand what are the different types of disasters that actually happen. For example, when you had floods, floods were sweeping around schools, they were sweeping children, they were destroying everything. But the parents have no training on disaster management and preparedness. It was very difficult even for them to understand that how do we go to schools and even help to sweep and clean the classrooms. They want someone else from the ministry to come and tell them, go and do that. But if the parents, the school boards of management that I oversee were trained on how to handle issues that affect parents, the school management boards will have been able to mobilize parents, even to go to schools and do the sweeping and cleaning of the classrooms. So, two, there's a question of congestion in schools. Many schools are congested because the 100% transition. Go to a school, not even in Russia. Go to any of these national schools, you'll find that a dormitory that a cube that used to hold 4 students during our time in school is having 48 students now. You cannot even walk in. You can't even cross. To move from one bed to the other one, students go on, jumping on beds like frogs to cross, because 100% transition is good. But now, what is this kind of congestion in schools? In a house like that one, if it got fire, for example, or floods, how many children would suffer in that kind of situation? So congestion is a problem. 3, go to other schools. Let me tell you one of the most interesting things. Go to most private schools, even secondary schools. You find that there are so many broken chairs. Furniture is broken all over.
Yes.
They have sharp metals, they have nails, they have anything. Even in the classroom where the students are sitting, some students are sitting on desks that have got very sharp nails, broken pieces of desks, and they are sitting in at their own mercy because nothing is going on. So we want inspection to be carried out by the Ministry of Education. The quality assurance officers must be sent to schools with immediate effect. From now, we don't have to wait again, because we have been waiting and we end up losing our children. Imagine now, if a school, if buses on the road had grills in their windows, what would happen when a bus gets an accident on the road? Would anybody survive? It would be very difficult. So schools must be built in a way that windows must be at a height of, if it's a primary boarding school, at a height of 50 centimeters, whereby a child, even when sleeping on the bed, can roll and jump outside. But now some boarding schools have their windows 50 kilometers high.
50 kilometers?
They're like prisons.
50 meters.
50 kilometers, I'm saying that.
50 meters is high.
They're like prisons. So even when the children are inside, they cannot see anything happening outside, but that's in the name of being what? Being secured. So we are saying that our schools are safe, but not 100% safe. With inspection, this can work. With a task force, now again, we are demanding as part of the association, we want a task force formed immediately. We must have a task force formed right now to go around a few schools and again bring up new recommendations now again to tell the new government in place that since this government went out, this had happened, but now again, this one is still going on. So with this task force in place, with school inspections in place, with the parents being allowed, and our problem, as I said, and I still repeat this, we want parents to be allowed to do their roles. Parents have roles to play both in and out of school.
Okay. In your view, are they locked out of...
Yes. Let me come to that point.
Okay.
Parents, I told you one thing. I represent National Parents Association. I sit in the government office. The PS knows where I sit. But I organize meetings in schools, and I'm told by the County Director of Education that meetings cannot go on until the PS gives a letter of authority for me to conduct those drills. I would have done this. So today I'm saying this. Let us be allowed. We are in the Education Act 2013, anchored there, with our roles as Parents Association to perform. But our roles are limited because we are not getting that what? Freedom from the person who's supposed to be giving us that freedom to go and do those things. When you go to the county director, he tells you, give me a letter from the PS showing that you have to conduct a drill in this school or for the parents.
Okay. So
we are asking...
So you propose to have some autonomy.
Yes.
And how do you attain that then?
The PS has to give me authority. He's the PS, he's in charge of the schools. When he gives me a letter to the County Director of Education that now go and train parents, go and train school boards of management, go and even train students. We have the trainers. I have been trained on child protection. Okay. But now I don't have authority to access this because I'm told produce a letter from the PS.
All right, thank you. Yes, Honorable Boraro.
My colleague, the chair of Parent Association, is very sentimental about this and emotional. But in schools, we have parents, what is called the PTA, Parents Teachers Association, which I think also merges with this association. And having been one of those who manage schools, the parents are allowed to meet in schools. In fact, it is a requirement, it's a policy that the school must have an AGM of parents. We have also representation of each class of the parents within the schools, that each class must have a representation of parents. And some of these policies, and the parents are also represented in the board of management. I think what we need to look at most importantly is about the policies that govern the management of the schools. We have relaxed a bit. These task forces, when we are talking about the task forces in this country, it is basically a waste of time. Because when you hear a task force is being formed, it means we want to sweep matters under the carpet. Some of the task forces that have been formed before have covered the basic requirements of boarding schools and their recommendations. And the recommendations are lying within the presence of the Ministry of Education. I think what we need to talk about is the implementation of these task forces. We have had many task forces about the boarding schools and also with the Ministry of Education. There are no well-trained personnel more than those who are sitting in the Ministry of Education. They have a lot of training, but have they been supported both materially and or otherwise? Are they supported to go and carry out their mandate as quality assurance and standards officer? Is the Directorate of Quality Assurance supported by the Ministry of Education? We have the Directorate of Quality Assurance and other directorates, but within our system of education, the most important directorate that should be supported more is the quality assurance and standards. And the
my senior,
let him finish.
Allow me. Let me correct you first before he goes on. Let me correct you first.
You'll get the time.
Allow me to correct him.
No, just hang on. Let him make his point.
Okay.
What we need to have is the budgetary allocation to the Ministry of Education in terms of surveillance of school, in terms of quality assurance. And sometimes you find that, I've heard people say that they have a broken desk. Is the capitation taken to schools? Do these schools get capitation from the government to make sure that these things are in order? So we must put emphasis on these schools and must start with the Ministry of Education to ensure that these schools are supported so that we have a good framework of management of these schools. We really require what is called psychosocial support for these students. Now that not just because of Endarasha and any other school, boarding schools, there's a lot of pressure. And when you see fire beginning, we have done a lot of research. One is because of pressure of students towards exams. And you will find that towards mocks in all the schools, especially boarding schools, towards mocks you will have fires, and towards the final exams you will have fires. Because these students, we always glorify the academic performance in everything that we do. And Russia is one of the best performing boarding schools. And that is why most parents would take their kids to that boarding school of Endarasha, despite the fact that maybe the capacity is limited. Because our country only emphasizes on the academics. Why can't we look for other ways also of bringing up these kids? It is not only academics alone. We are called of prior recognition of prior learning. The government must also shift towards recognition of prior learning and also skill development in our institution. We must have schools that recognize a skill development. We must have co-curricular activities. Some of these schools that are in demands are only there for academic purposes only. And when the kids get locked up, that they only think of academics, they get a lot of pressure. And that pressure sometimes leads to the banning of the schools. I have been there, I taught for many years. And when you hear school has been banned, then you hear there was a fault, electrical fault. That is a scapegoat. Most of this banning are physical from either the students, either the surrounding environment, or otherwise. I can tell you for sure that electrical faults is 1%.
Okay. So, and please finish here. Please finish.
So, what we need to do in our schools is the governance and the management of the institutions. Apart from the training that they undergo, we must put competent people to manage our schools. We must always give those who deserve, not just picking anybody to go and manage those schools. If the principal does not stay in school, if the boarding master is not there at night, if the housemaster is not around at night, then how are we going to manage these students, for heaven's sake?
Right.
We must ensure that the mandatory requirement for schools that each housemaster, me when I was in education, for the last 30 years, I've never slept before midnight. And by 4, I am up because I had to take care of these kids. You must sacrifice yourself for these duties to be done. So I think we need to relook at the management of these schools and how they operate, how they allocate duties for the teachers and the management, so that we avoid some of this fire inferno that happens within the school.
Okay, Honorable Beatrice Salachi, I come to you on this because this is a speech by the former education CS, Ezekiel Machogu, that he made on the 28th of March. And in his speech, he said public schools constitute only 31% of schools in Nairobi County, with the others 69% being private ones. Among the public schools in the city, there are 216 ECD, 211 primary, 193 junior, 107 secondary schools. And he said for grade 9 particularly, there are currently 4,651 classrooms in primary schools in Nairobi County, resulting into a deficit of 983 classrooms. You and Honorable Oredo come from two congested constituencies in terms of school and also a growing demography in the city. Looking at this and the slow-paced nature of reconstruction of schools and setting them up to the standards as required with regards to safety precautions, this, if not attended to, has the probability of another disaster in waiting, is it?
Yes, not just probability, it is disaster already. Because one of the things we, as we look at education, being the only thing you can give a child who is from a background that will need support until you find them somewhere in their lives, is that in Nairobi, so we have many of these private schools. I won't call them private. I will call them Abed schools. But the challenge we've had, and well, I have had, is asking myself one question. This child is the same as this child in the public school. The curricula right now of CBC, I believe, is very different. Because this child, by the time he's coming in grade 9, because whether we like it, because I always tell Abed schools, we have to think, are you there for business for the children? Are you really there for the need of this child's destiny? Are you there for her or him? If you're there for her or him, then you should be asking yourself, how in grade 9 is this child coming to join this other school? Because they will have to come to now the public schools for year 9. And that is where the biggest challenge we are going to face. And so for me, what the ministry should be doing, and that is one thing during our days, government used to take community schools and make them public schools. And so if somebody is serious saying this is an Abed school to support children who are unable to go to school and whatever, but can agree with the ministry to take over and make it a public school so that we increase these public schools, then that would be better. But you'll find many of them now refusing because they will think, oh, the donors who have been receiving, oh, what. Those things, I find it very wrong, consciously very, very wrong in God's eyes and even in ourselves. Because you are doing business with children. You don't care where they're headed. That is why when they're joining Form 1, I will tell you, you go into a crisis even when they were joining Form 1. Because I have to go and look for these children. Some have passed well. You are supposed to take them to Form 1 because the donor used to support at that time. Mwalimu has now left over. He doesn't care how you move to Form 1 or whatever. And I'm not saying all. Some of them are also very good schools, which must partner with government. Because if we are talking about a child of Kenya, then you have no business. This is not your child. This is a government child. And one thing, we must be very strict with the ministry. And I'm hoping the Education Committee is doing that. Every child in Kenya must have a NEMIS number. Every child. Does not matter whether you are in Abet, I don't know where. Let this child have a NEMIS number. That number will help you even to account as government and know how many children do we have, how many are in some semblance of education, how many are proceeding, so that when you are doing your computation, you know. And so you'll put in a NEMIS number. You will know these are from the private, so they don't need computation. But these ones of public get capitation so that you know how much does each child cost. Then this issue of budgets, we come out of it. You know, in this country, what we have done, Ayub, especially in the education system, we have decided as ministry to use very interesting gray areas to cover so many things.
Okay.
So we have refused NEMIS number because we know now Parliament will be knowing how many children are we, and we shall put the budget according to capitation of that, of each, and we shall know. Because who built the schools? Members of Parliament through CDF, isn't it? So you know the number of schools in your area. Definitely. Okay. Every member of Parliament knows how many schools do I have. In fact, how many children? I would tell you, in the morning, when schools open, we have a number of children who come direct. We have those who stay for 1 week. And by the time you're finishing 1 month in Nairobi, you will see how the school has increased either children. And the other thing, we have a problem, I'm talking about Nairobi, is that even the chiefs must come in and follow. How can you come in a school and ask and say, for 1 week I have not seen this child? How?
Okay.
How are we working then?
Okay. So, Honorable Elachi, then is it then correct to deduce from your submission that the capitation process by the Ministry of Education is subject to bureaucratic abuse?
Yes, a lot. And that is where we lose money in the... How much money have they given Ministry of Education? You can see. But they get the highest in terms of...
We have 627 billion?
Whatever.
Yeah, billion. Now,
start calculating. If you had NEMIS, trust me, we could even reduce the budget.
Okay.
And now get more teachers. You're not reducing the budget to take it anywhere else. No. Now you get more teachers to come into schools because you use the same money. Now you look at how many are they in tertiary. Why do we normally say, oh, by the time they are joining Form 1, we have lost. Where have we lost them? If you had a NEMIS number, you'd know who you are losing.
Okay.
And that is where I say in our country, we decided to bring in this, and I'm sorry for the private schools. I'm not saying they're bad. But it was the most unfortunate thing that ever happened to our country, that we can split our children. Right now, I'm listening to that conversation of the model, and I'm asking myself, you have decided, fine, I have decided, my child will go to a private school, maybe he was sponsored, or she was sponsored, or I was able to afford. Why? So that I can get Kenya High, Alliance. And now you want to come and tell me, children who are in day schools cannot now get, in fact, anything to do with the model, if you ask me today, is to assist any child who was in a day school and had a C+. You know, but that one I will put him in band 1 or 2. Because I know that was a bright child who the parents maybe were unable completely to do what, maybe he passed well or she passed well.
Yeah.
And that would be my way of doing it.
All right.
But lastly, let me just say this.
Yes, please.
In Kenya, I've come to realize it's not about money. It's not about, we have a culture we inculcated in ourselves. One of the things we never care about is our own revenue. That when I'm given an office, I want to imagine the tools that I am in an office instead of creating the tools to do the work I have been given. Because we can do these things if we have a willing heart.
Okay.
But because we have decided it's a salary from 8 to 5, that's why you go in some schools. I want to tell Mwalimu.
Yes.
I walked into a school the other day.
Yeah.
And I had Mwalimu who was very angry that he's being transferred. We never did the transfer. He has been very sick. Sickly every time, until he decided even the deputies cannot be the ones who can take over the things to be done. He took one of your teachers, who you call now senior teachers, to be running the school, and you have deputies.
Okay.
And those are some of the things I am like, how does this work? How?
Okay. Yes, Mr. Chairman, you had a point earlier.
Let me come back to my point.
Yes.
I begin from Mheshimiwa on the issue of task forces. Education systems keep on changing, and they come with emerging issues every time. We must always revise this, and that's why you have the Department of Research. So we are saying that the Parliament, in fact, not the government now, let me talk about Parliament. Parliament should allocate enough funding towards research in schools in this country. We must have that done. They should allocate funding, a lot of funding towards training of school PTAs, board management in schools. And I said that's my work, because my work is to do parental empowerment and engagement to make sure that school management boards are trained on issues that can make schools be safe areas or environments for the children and the teachers. So if the boards of school management are not trained on drills like for disasters, they are just in the board sitting there. They have no training on that. It's my organization to do that. That's why NPA is there on that side. So when I talk about now a task force, we are not saying that the task force is bad, but we are saying that there should be another task force that can also compare, come up with other new issues, saying that now we have CBC. What has been done and what we need to do more to make sure that the CBC succeeds in future. The other question is about head teachers or where managers schools. Teachers or principals in public primary schools, these are TS employees, they're government employees. These teachers are trained, they are qualified, they are trained. They know what to do as far as the management of schools is concerned. But if they don't have resources to allocate towards that side, like for example on the training of the parents, class reps will be trained. If the money is not that trained, the class reps on what are the safety precautions in schools, then the principals have nothing to do. They are trained. If a principal is given 1,000 students in Form 1, and this is a regulation from the Ministry of Education for the government, the principal is helpless. He can't say no. If you say no, why are you saying no? This is a public school. These are public children. Have the children taken.
So what then needs to happen? Because
let me come on.
The funding is allocated,
yes.
627 billion. Honorable Borrero, you sit in the Education Committee.
Yes.
This is nearly, or if not more than 30% of the national budget?
Yes. But,
just to confirm that, as also as a career teacher.
Yes.
Then, Mr. Chairman, what then needs to happen? Because if we are to scale up the safety precautions across schools, and as Honorable Elijah had pointed out, to move away from that culture of societal materialism, focusing on the money, not on the quality of education and the value that these learners get, who then needs to do this allocation?
I'm coming there.
First, that's my first question. Second, how then do we move away from this culture of Kenyans watching with shock the state of infrastructure and the crumbling concrete only when it's election time and when we go to vote in these primary schools or secondary schools across the country, and then realize the state of infrastructure is indeed wanting? When do we move away from that culture of just being in that societal shock? Yet there's the biggest allocation of the national budget to the Ministry of Education, and that needs to cater for all these problems that we are mentioning. So who needs to take up that responsibility and do the allocations as required?
Let me come to that point. I was saying, one thing, we need that kind of holistic collaboration. The government and the parents, the teachers, and even the learners, they are all stakeholders. When it comes to the issues of school safety, all must be incorporated. They must be one team. They must talk one language. Even the children can be put in a panel and be asked to air their views on what they see in schools where they live. They can do this. Honorable Machogu, before he left, we had an education conference in Kasarani. And the children spoke openly, saying what issues they face in schools that they cannot explain on their own. It's as if they're in a box locked up. But they are quiet, they are children, they cannot talk. Even these children in this school in Russia might have foreseen dangers ahead. But they cannot talk because of fear. They are not open. They have not been put in that free space to speak. So we are saying, let the stakeholders in the education sector come together and be organized together. Let parents be allowed to do their roles, the teachers, the students, and all everyone to make sure that schools are safe. 2, inspectorate or inspection must be put in place again. Once more, like in the previous days, let quality assurance officers move to schools around and also move. Even get some of this boards of management for benchmarking in some of the schools that are very safe to see what's happening in these schools. Then, the issue of funding. The issue of education funding in Kenya has been a thorn in the flesh all through. There is a fight where you find members of parliament want to control money in schools, which is right. They come from those areas. They know who deserves this. There's an issue where you find, just a minute, you find that CDF, who controls CDF, who's given money to go and give bursaries or whatever?
The kit is managed by the lawmakers.
Yeah, the lawmakers. That's what you're saying. They are given that. But how much are parents involved in that? Do they even sit in those committees to say, okay, my MP is getting this amount of money, he's come to allocate bursaries to these children? Do we sit and make a decision to know even who are the deserving children? Because at the end of the day, this money ends to the hands of the people who campaigned. Let me be frank. To those waheshimiwas, it's in the hands of those people. They're the ones who get support. Look at the MCS. What are their roles? What are they doing?
But to say that the money ends exclusively in the hands of those who are campaigning for this MP, we are 290 elected members of parliament who manage the kitty.
Yes.
Therefore, it's a wholesale characterization.
I'm trying to make it clear.
I mean, this is a broad brush painting of allegation that you are making of money ending in. There are classical examples of learners who are beneficiaries of the CDF process. And what MPs today can say is their visible development that they have done in terms of investing in education across the 290 constituencies, more than even they hold the governors, and despite having a huge budget at the county level.
We are saying this. We are not saying that the MPs take money and give their campaigners. When the MPs are given money, they go on the ground. Then the money comes to the school levels.
Yes, it ends in the hands of their campaigners.
I want to clarify that one.
Okay.
Why am I saying the hands in the hands of the campaigners? Go to where I come from. I was contesting for an election in that area because of what I had seen going in the education sector of those areas. And one of the issues that the voters will tell me is that some of us, we are discriminated about being given CDF funding for our children because we campaigned for Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so, and all this. These things should be brought out. And what you are saying as Parents Association, we want a centralized area or something like a centralized kind of education funding position. What do we mean by this? We want the government should set up an education funding commission in this country so that all the allocation for education can be poured in that one central place.
Okay, one kitty.
One kitty. Let me finish.
Briefly.
From that one kitty, the money can be transferred direct. Parents can access money without using any board. Just like the way universities allocate access their funding, parents, even at the school primary level, can access money from those because it will be devolved. The commission is Nairobi, like the Teacher Service Commission. We have teachers at the school level. So we want education funding commission established where money can roll from direct. It's not being given to one person. The money is given to the commission. And the commission is held responsible if any child drops out of school.
Okay.
Secondly,
because of time, just point made. Let me get to the account fund about that.
But I think just before I speak, as a honorable member, I will not sit and hear the chairman say that this money end up the education supporters. And the centralization of this money, I think is quite myopic, the thinking. And the way he's imagining that this money can go to the commission. Our voters are also parents. And as we sit here, we are all parents. We cannot talk of other parents, and we are all parents. And how we will manage the bus. In my constituency, I have given over 55 million without discrimination of who voted. You can call my members of my whether you voted for me, whether you are my supporter. These are Kenyan children, and I have publicly said that Kenyan children must be given priority, irrespective of where you vote. And by the way, this bursary allocation is not within the president and management fully for the MPs. We have committees that manages these funds. As an MP, I don't even sign a check for these funds. We have the
constituency managers,
the management board. In fact, even the constituency managers are not members of this bursary and committee. We have a fund manager employed by the National NGCDF, and we choose the committee from each of our wards to manage these funds. So that is a misplaced statement about the MPs. And some of the MPs have done very, very great work. Even I'm sitting with this lady here. You go to Dagoretti, look at the school that she's putting up in her constituencies. They are amazing. We, like me, we have renovated schools. We are doing classrooms for schools and many other things that we do. Anyway, we were talking about this fire in Feno, and also what we need to do as a country that we are here. And the most important thing is that we have had many task forces. We have had the allocation of funding to schools. Now, this funding, even the 627 billion, this funding goes to different vote heads in schools. And sometimes we will find that the money as a voted for development is very minimal, that you cannot even put up a dome with this kind of money. We need to reassess the allocation and the capitation of schools, and also the disbursement of this capitation to various schools, that they should be timely, so that the managers of the schools can plan with their money and make necessary adjustments within their system. I want to support this NEMIS aspect, as we are from informal sectors, like Dagoretti, Kibra, Madare. The number of upbed schools in our constituencies are 10 times or more the number of public schools in our constituencies. We have upbed school, we have private school. These private schools are very tiny and small private schools. You would not categorize them as the big private school. They are private schools because the kids from informal sectors, they have no... The number of public schools within those constituencies are very minimal. You find maybe 8 public school or 9 public schools. Now, the rest of the kids now have nowhere to go. They come from informal sectors, so they must join the upbed schools. We need to support this. We need to have a policy in the Ministry of Education to support these other schools which are not public, because there is no public Kenyan child. All these children are Kenyan children. If we have the number of the public schools are not enough, where do we take our children? Right. So this capitation, we are talking that we have the highest capitation in the Ministry of Education. We need to reevaluate where we disburse this money to as a country, so that Nairobi itself, the president had ordered that we should be given 1 billion to build classrooms for
1,000 classrooms.
1,000 classrooms. Up to now, it was supposed to be done from last year. Up to now, that money is not there.
Mathematically, that is 58 million per constituency?
Yes, per constituency. Yes. You are right. I think you are a mathematician.
But it will go less, because Nairobi, you have to go high. Yep. So you must do slabs.
You must
go high. You have no land to...
Even expand the schools.
To expand the schools.
Which in itself then brings into focus that structure that needs to go up, because it must have that safety precautions that
it must have a ramp.
Given the growing demography in Nairobi.
You must put a ramp on it.
So it will go, it will be less.
And stairs.
And the stairs. And you can imagine Nairobi, the way the number of kids we have no classrooms. These kids, where will they go? And even with the presidential directive that we be given the 1 billion, it has not been disbursed, and we only have about 4 or 5 months. When are we going to put up this classroom for the Nairobi?
Which raises the question as to now what happened, and the bureaucracy that we talked about earlier on, Honorable Elachi. I'll sample the feedback, give you the final comments here on the broadcast.
Yes.
The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Let's see what you're saying on the hashtag. Jay Musoma says it's devastating for traumatized Endarasha Hillside Academy parents to be kept that long waiting. The DNA sample collection is long overdue. My thoughts and prayers are with the families. May God give them peace at this difficult time. Frank Orinde says there's no standardization in the way school constructions are done in this country. The government has failed to ensure the standards are met, from poorly done structures to overpopulated schools to lack of capacity in education offices. All these are safety risks. Okelo Mwalimu says, even as I convey my condolences to families that lost their loved ones in Endarasha, I'd like to call out relevant government agencies for failing to take timely actions on schools that flout safety rules. And reports shouldn't be used as cover-ups for tragedies. They must guide actions. Vero says, I was raised in the village. Someone explain where 46 kids of Hillside Academy will be hiding in the village 72 hours after the inferno that it's not Nairobi town where they are still stranded at Afya Center. The most heartbreaking headlines I have seen this year. Senior Barak says the government needs to make sure that safety standards in boarding schools are top-notch. Time is ripe for education stakeholders to rethink the place of primary boarding schools in our educational dispensation. Yes, please, your final remarks, starting with you.
Well, for me, just to say that, yes, I agree. It is very sad that up to now, parents of Hillside School are wondering this morning at Narumoro Hospital where to start. And I think the best is even those who feel that they have up to now 72 hours, just go to Narumoro. Just do the DNA. Do the DNA so that you if you don't find anything now, you start thinking.
Yeah.
Than putting yourself into a lot of the emotions and the torture will be so high. You're better off just now getting to know. But to the ministry, we must get a policy. There's a policy of disposal, but it has a lot of gray areas.
Yeah.
And so I agree, we have so many desks, many things that are just junky, not just in the Ministry of Education, even at the police stations. You have so many things that are just junky, that are just dirty.
Including cars.
Including motorbikes. They are so old. You are wondering how, even if it is an evidence, can you take photos? With this digital era, the evidence can be taken as a photo and taken to court, and these things are disposed instead of staying like this.
Thank you.
But lastly,
thank you. First, you finish up briefly.
Lastly, this is what I want to tell
all right,
my parent chair. That, you see, every Mheshimiwa has the way they run these constituencies. I'll tell you, in Nairobi, I don't think we have a child. And you know, all the monies go to rural because most of our children are schooling in rural. So when you bring us that you can go back and take the money, I don't know how I'm going to go to Chavakali High School to take the money.
Okay.
So these things, he can be talking to those who are from his area. Here, we give children as merit. Here in Dagoretti North, there's no, even I gave Form 4s the other day. I don't think there's any other constituency that has ever come, because I did not want to see Form 4s being put in buses, coming back again to Nairobi.
Okay.
Yes.
Point again. Mr. Chairman, briefly.
I'll be very brief. One, I would suggest that the government should go back and support ABET schools, because they do education supplement in this country, without which many children would be out. There's a time they used to be funded, sometime back like Nairobi schools, ABET schools used to get funding. That should be done. Two, school inspection. The Ministry of Education should do something very urgently on the school inspections, should be effected again once more, quality assurance officers to go around and check. Three, parents should be fully involved in matters related to schools, all the way from performance to school management systems.
Okay. Training
of parents at all levels must be done through National Parents Association, which is their mandate. Finally, we are saying on CDF funds, I want to thank Nairobi Weshimiwas because of the work that they have done. Because Nairobi is like a government of its own, a whole country on its own.
Okay.
So finally, as we say that, I want to be clear that not all MPs end up in this kind of a mess you are saying. You have seen on television this morning, there are schools like in Marala, I don't know where even the floor itself, children cannot walk in the classrooms. Don't we have members of parliament in those areas? Don't we have MCS in those areas? Don't we have government officers on the ground? We are saying we must work together as a team.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Senator Borrero, briefly.
I just want again to express again my heartfelt condolences to the families, and say that these families should be given psychosocial support so much. We need to set up a center for psychosocial support. I also want to say that I had a fire in my constituency where people died. And it takes a lot of time for the DNA test to be carried. It cannot be instant because the facilities we have in this country, and there are very few people who can do this DNA test. So the parents must be prepared to wait. They might wait even for a week before they know whether their children were burnt. So I want to encourage them to be patient as this is being done.
Thank you.
So that as a country we can move forward. But lastly, I want to ask the government to empower the Directorate of Quality Assurance in this country so that the education system, they can check, they can inspect, and we can have normal standards within this country. Otherwise, I want to thank you again.
Asante.
But I must also thank my Kibra constituents.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Why not Dagoretti?
No, you are in Dagoretti when you are here. So
he knows where
it is our prayer that every parent has woken up
very good.
And the children have gone to school. That's my prayer.
Yes. And to respond to your question, I'm sure Honorable Orero knows where his political bread is buttered.
Yes.
He knows he has a debt to them sometime in 2027.
Yes.
But thank you, Honorable Peter Orero, MP, Kibra constituency. Your time is appreciated. Honorable Beatrice Alachi, MP, Dagoretti North, thank you for your time as well. Silas Obohatsa is the chairperson, the National Parents Association. And thank you to you too for waking up with us here on the broadcast. The hashtag on X has been Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Well, less worries. Isaac Swila is back. You'll be piloting the Up Next show, which is Sporting Monday here on the broadcast. More on the pathway to AFCON 2025 and as well much of the action across the European and the global continent of the international friendlies. The English Premier League, La Liga, the Serie A and the Spanish La Liga are on break, resuming this weekend, and those are the actions that they will be focusing on here on the broadcast. And I see Steve Chisto is here as well. Well, the blue side of the English capital, London, now on the second page, I assume so, and they will be up next year on Sporting Monday. I'll see you tomorrow morning here on the broadcast at the same time. Till then, good morning and have a lovely day.